Dulwich is a very interesting kind of concept. I cannot describe it, but it's art in bucket loads. You'd kind of think that a collection that finished somewhere in the middle of the 1800s was a very sleepy affair, and not a bit of it.
If you look at the collection as a whole, one of its great values is that it represents a moment in history. This is a collection that was put together around 1800, and the taste involved reflects that.
This room. It's got one or two of my favourites. This one for a very odd reason. This is not a great masterpiece, I don't think, but it's a very popular painting. The clue is in the little cushion here with a crown on top. This is Queen Victoria, aged 4. And as you can see, she didn't change much in her life. She was always kind of square, basically, and she was always that size. It's by Stephen Poyntz Denning, who was the first keeper of the gallery. So in those days, they appointed artists, practicing artists, to run the gallery, because, of course, it saved on conservation. Basically, this man could come in and freshen up the paintings and look after them properly, and it was thought that an artist could do that. This one, however, is an out-and-out masterpiece, and this is Canaletto. Many people, obviously, people are aware of Canaletto, all those wonderful views of Venice, but people forget that, in fact, he followed the market for 10 years. He came to England. So Canaletto was based in England for 10 years, producing works that are recognisably him, of course, but of English subjects. Now, this is Old Walton Bridge. This bridge no longer exists. I mean, we'd know if it did. It's quite remarkable. It's this extraordinary kind of engineering structure in wood. And he's recorded it. Like always with Canaletto, you get these little glimpses of reality. I mean, it looks like a little photograph. There's a little village in the background there, and all the detail is there, from the ducks on the green to the people out for a walk. But also, there's Thomas Hollis, who is the man who commissioned the painting. And that means, I think, that we can assume that this gentleman here, who is sitting on a folding seat beside the river, with paper and a brush and a palette, this is Canaletto. This is another of my favourites, and I'm not alone in this. It's a famous painting, in fact, but it's not a famous name. If you look at the label, it's now attributed to Arend de Gelder, and it sounds like a sneeze, but actually he was Rembrandt's last pupil. Now, one of the things about art history is that, of course, the markets come and go. In the 18th century, Rembrandt was still hot stuff. Rembrandt never went out of fashion. Arend de Gelder, on the other hand, didn't have a high value in the sale room. So, of course, some 18th century dealer had covered up the signature and written in Rembrandt here. In the 19th century, this was one of the most famous paintings in the gallery, and it was famous because it was by Rembrandt, they thought. And they appreciated everything. People waxed lyrical about the invention, the imagination, how only the greatest possible master could have produced this extraordinary image. And then someone found the original signature. Now nobody bothers. Same painting. Same painting, but the power of the market has fallen away. Rembrandt's signature is no longer there. People don't give it the same value. But it's a fantastic painting. Fantastic painting.
The John Soane building is a mighty enough building on its own, you know, without any paintings.
No, it's an icon. It's become an icon. It's hugely influential as a building. He's one of these architects who responds well to financial pressure. You know, if you say, well, yes, your designs are lovely, but actually we've only got a third of the money, which is basically what the governors of Dulwich College were saying to him, he responds pragmatically. And at some point he realized he had to use London brick. Now, London brick was a very mean, considered at the time, a very mean material in which to build a grand gallery. But given that that was what he could afford, he takes the London brick and turns it into something monumental. Blueprint for all other public art galleries. We're the first public art gallery in England. And we were established by the two gentlemen behind me, over my shoulder here. On the left, Noel Desenfants was a Frenchman, and on the right, a Swiss, Sir Francis Bourgeois, much younger of the two. And they worked as art dealers. They put together this great collection. In doing so, they were trying to come up with something didactic. It was meant to reflect the history of Western art. Why they gave it to Dulwich College, we don't really know. Desenfants died first in 1807, Bourgeois in 1811, and in those 2 weeks before he died, he made his will in which he bequeathed this amazing collection that the two of them had put together to Dulwich College. They liked the clean air. It's a conservation issue now, of course, and it's still true, of course, of Dulwich. And they liked the fact, I think, that it was going to a school, so it was for educational purposes. And those are the principles that govern all public art galleries even now. Well, here we are walking into a very modern part of the building. We closed in 1999 for refurbishment. Long overdue. There was a lot of work to do in the gallery. But at the same time, the architect was Rick Mather, who's a very well-known American architect, had to build an extension. And he decided to go very much with the idea of a cloister. And it's worked beautifully. I still love this space. It feels warm and welcoming. We now have, of course, as you can see behind me, an extremely glamorous cafe. Something that Soane didn't have to worry about, of course, but we do. People coming all this way and not being able to get a cup of tea, you know, is not on. And if we move down here, we're back into the Jacobean on the right, the 20th century additions to the gallery on the left, the Sackler Centre down here, everything completely cutting edge and modern on one side. And then you get little details like this, which are a kind of Victorian gloss on an acorn, which is the entrance to the Jacobean chapel. So Mather has kind of put all this together, brought the history of the building together in a really remarkable way, I think. And he leads you down here very subtly, one step at a time, and then as you go around the corner, you're into the last stretch before entering the gallery.
Because our founders had really good eye, they got masterpieces. So they didn't just get Rembrandt, they got one of the best. The Rubens is the best. Poussin, you can't get better. You know, that's the great value of Dulwich. It doesn't change. We don't buy millions of new paintings and put the old ones that we don't like back in store. they're all out. They're all old friends. They've been here for nearly 200 years. And all right, you may not like one artist. You may think that it's unimportant. Wait 50 years, you'll probably be back in again. You can never judge fashion. Unfortunately for us, at its core is a body of masterpieces that any gallery in the world would kill for.
We're in the National Gallery, in the Conservation Department of the National Gallery, and I've been allowed to bring the painting here because it's such a very valuable, important painting. We were becoming concerned about the stability of the paint surface, which was not in danger of immediate flaking, but the craquelure, the paint, the cracks, natural aging craquelure of the paint surface was beginning to become a little bit raised and sharp, and obviously needed some attention. It took me something like 2 weeks to remove the varnish from this painting. Then I had to introduce the adhesive into the cracks. That took 2 or 3 weeks really, just to be absolutely sure. I'm very impressed that people I'm allowed to work on a Rembrandt. It's exciting. Whether it's terrifying is another matter, because I don't think it would be very useful to be terrified. But not many people have a chance to work on a Rembrandt, so I think I'm amazingly lucky and privileged. She's a very familiar image when you think of this painting, when you think of Dulwich Picture Gallery.
When a major painting is absent, I walk through these galleries at my peril, because our local supporters here, who are our people who come back again and again and again and love the place, will buttonhole me. You know, where is she? When's she coming back? And quite right too. This has been away for a while now, in Italy and to the Tate in London. And when a painting comes back from being on loan, you have to get it in, you have to check that nothing has happened. And so we have Sophie here is looking at the condition report, which we write for every painting that goes out. So every little thing. The history of this is really the history of celebrity. It's a very important painting because it's by Joshua Reynolds, who is a great master. And he was interested in the creation. I mean, this is what this exhibition that's been lent to is about. It's called The Creation of Celebrity. Mrs. Siddons is really one of the first characters who looms like a modern film star. Actresses in the 18th, 17th century may have had their fans, but there was always a sense that they were no better than they should be, actresses. It wasn't a respectable profession, however entertaining they may have been. Mrs. Siddons turned that on its head. She is the first superstar of the British stage. Now, the point about this painting is that Reynolds, there's a wonderful story. Reynolds set her up. She was very grand. She was a grande dame for theatre. And her painting was to be done. Reynolds very cleverly flattered her. It's very important. Gainsborough, when he painted her, is famous for having said to her, "Madam, there is no end to your nose," he said, slightly tactlessly. Reynolds dealt with it differently. He had a throne set up. He said, "Madam, take your throne. Adopt a posture redolent of the tragic muse." And she went, And he said, "Perfect," and painted it. Flattery. The image suggests tragedy. Tragedy suggests classical mythology. Classical mythology does not suggest one step up from the brothel. This is an actress of serious import, the first great star of the stage. We want to lend because we feel these are our gift, if you like. This is the gift of the world. And it's good for paintings to be seen by other people. So there's a good altruistic reason there as well.
There's a thoroughly selfish reason, which is that we want to borrow.
If we were to sum up what we do, it's to encourage the enjoyment of the visual arts. It's as simple as that. Exhibitions are one of the key ways of doing it. With an old master show, you get a certain kind of audience. With Beatrix Potter, which is going up at the moment, you know, we'll get a lot of small kids and their grandparents and that kind of thing. And that's really nice. It introduces different people to the gallery. So it performs an important function.
I need you to pack these two here. Now this needs glass taping, I'm pretty sure it does.
Okay, that's fine.
And I need you to check the condition report. It's soft wrapped, but it needs more than
We'll do corners. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Well, we're just in the middle, as you can see, of taking down the Graham Sutherland exhibition, which is on here at the gallery, in the exhibition spaces. On the second day of the takedown, and by the end of the week, we should have painted all the galleries and have it all ready for the next exhibition to go up. We have our schedule for our exhibition, our major exhibition programme, in place for about 4 or 5 years ahead. We know what we're going to be doing, and each exhibition has various stages, but for about a year in advance of an exhibition, you're working on it. Are you guys ready to go with that? Yes. Good. When people don't lend, it's usually because the work is too fragile to be lent, or it's part of their collection where it's a major part of the collection, and so that's when you have to try and negotiate with them.
We can't put on a blockbuster about Vermeer or Van Gogh because we're too small. We can't do it. We couldn't cope with the numbers. We couldn't get people to come here even for that kind of thing. So we're not driven by the same blockbusteritis that, you know, drives the big galleries around the world. We can pick and choose a bit and make sure that things are really interesting, that they have a good intellectual core to them, or are quirky in some way, original. That's our great strength.
We want to reach all sorts of audiences, and if we waited for them to find us, I think we might wait a very long time. We might wait forever. So the key to finding those audiences is to go out and get them somewhere in an outreach programme, and then seduce them to coming back to the gallery. And then we get them here and we introduce people in our special way of making them feel very at home, very welcome. And of course, having the wonderful Sackler studio here means that we can do a great range of art programmes, creative art programmes, and that is the way to tempt so many people. We have life drawing in there, we have watercolour painting, textiles, model making, clay heads, carving, as well as the run-of-the-mill things that you would do every day. It's really well used, and we love that space. We just need a lot more of spaces like that. I could do with 3 or 4 of them.
Easy peasy brown paint would be earth. So this is just earth from Devon.
We've got a science person who comes along and she explains there's just no art without a scientific element. Paint can't stay on a canvas on its own without a sticky stuff to make it stick. How does that happen? Paint is just pigment with a sticky stuff, and she will teach our groups to make the pigment from scratch, just as they were doing in Old Master Studios, and that's a glorious session to watch.
This is quite a modern pigment. We have a Gainsborough in the gallery of 2 girls called the Linley sisters. And one of them's wearing a yellow dress, and we know that the yellow dress was painted with this colour, which is called Indian yellow. So that sort of tells you where the colour came from. And it's made from cow's urine. And they had to sort of give these cows a special diet of mango leaves to make them produce bright yellow pea.
They've got a fantastic education department here, which was set up by Gillian Wolfe about, I think, 20 years ago.
It's rather nice that I was seconded here as an experiment to see if we could attract people to Dulwich Picture Gallery to learn about the paintings, and in those days it was thought highly unlikely that anyone would like to come to do just that.
I mean, at that time, as far as I'm aware, that I don't think they had education departments in music. Now everybody's got them.
The experiment was given initially, I think, about 3 months, and well, here we are, nearly 21 years later, so it shows that people are interested in collections like this.
When we came here for the very first time and we were told that this was probably one of the first galleries, the collection that we saw, they were kind of claustrophobic in a way, showing like all the paintings close together. We've never seen this in any other gallery, but they kind of work well off each other, and the actual gallery itself brings out the best in it, the colours, the lighting.
Dulwich is a very posh gallery, and it has Baroque paintings in it, and youth does not easily come to Baroque paintings.
It was quite new coming to an old gallery. I'm used to modern art, the Turner Prize, Saatchi Gallery. You look at it at first and you're not sure if you like it, but then once you hear all the stories and all the background about the paintings and all the stories about the painters, then you suddenly start looking at it in a different light.
There's certain pieces like the Saint Sebastian and one on, not the Virgin Mary, I think there's one. Them quite, them pieces, they strike because you know where they come from. They've got quite a good story behind them.
The nice thing about the way we treat young people here is that they're with one of our team of teachers all the time. So they don't have to wander around, they don't have to get the information from worksheets or anything. There's always somebody there to talk about the paintings in a very personal way.
So you kids come round here, and you sit down in front of me.
We've got a storyteller called Roberto, who's a very charismatic figure, and he uses lots of body language, and he's a wow in front of the paintings.
This is one of my favourite paintings, and whenever I walk by, I have a smile, because I think it's so funny. Can you see the lady there? Her name is Aphrodite, the goddess of love. See the little boy there? That's the sun. His name is Cupid. What has that boy got that you haven't got? Wings. He flies around with his wings, and when he sees people and he wants to make them fall in love, he shoots them in the heart. Show me your arrow. Right. Feel the feathers. Feel the point. Right. Put it down. Get your bow, nice and big, with a big string. Pick up the arrow. There's a little notch at the end with the feathers. Put it on the bowstring. Slip it down. Right. Get hold of it. Pull it back. Right. Let's aim at him. Can you show us where your heart is, please? Right. Let's aim at the heart. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Brilliant. I've got to tell you the truth. One day, he will shoot an arrow into your hearts.
There's no one way into fine art, so what we try to offer is as many different routes as possible. One of the projects that we've got here that we're particularly excited about at the moment that is highly responsive is something called Digit, and this is a digital way of teaching about the paintings with handheld palm-top computers.
The children will come to the gallery, they'll be given a little palm-top computer each. They will pick the trail, which in this case is how symbols tell stories. Then they are given the option of which painting to start off with, so they'll all choose different paintings. So here we have little miniatures of the paintings that they can choose. They can scroll down until they find the one that they'd like to start with. And here, for example, is a miniature of this Horatius defending the bridge. This picture is full of symbolism, and it shows how symbols can tell a story. And the children have to work this out for themselves. They have to make their own connections, draw their own conclusions. And they love the fact that a teacher isn't talking to them. Everything that the children do, and they put in answers and they tick boxes and so forth in these little palm-top computers, is automatically saved. All that information can be accessed back at school. There are discussion topics, there are other web pages that I lead them to, and lots of other activities that they can do in school, drawing activities, all relating to the national curriculum, which the teachers really like as well. We have interest from America. We've had people from the education departments of the Guggenheim in New York, from the Met, from Chicago, from Los Angeles, from really, Americans are so interested in this. We are really the first people to do it.
We want to make that beginning moment very special, and let's face it, we only have one chance to do it. If they don't like it, their first visit, why should they ever come here again? And the idea is to make them want to come back and back and back, and that's really what we're interested in. I'm not so much interested in the one-off visit, although that's fine. I want people to have a really terrific relationship with this gallery and keep coming back and back and back because they love it.
I'll definitely come back, yeah. It's just, I like the atmosphere, and to be honest, they do have some good works here and good exhibitions, so I would come back. They also do good cake.
These are modern, these are modern boys and girls coming in and seeing Dulwich Picture Gallery. And that's what will make it carry on into the future as being a wonderful place and an exciting place to visit.
People come to see Ginger the cat, let alone Rembrandt. And Ginger's been here for ages, and he's part of the gallery as well. You know, we are surrounded by this cocoon of people who are generally incredibly supportive. This is our core audience. They come again and again and again. These are the people who man the desk, who come to the Friends events all the time. It has a very strong local impact. So we look after them here, and they are our loyalist supporters.
It's really important to stay fresh with what you do, and we could just sit down and say this is working well, we just keep doing it, but I think we'd all be bored to death. I'm afraid I think I would find that very tedious indeed, and I'm not really happy unless we're always trialling something new and piloting something new here. That's got to go alongside that, maintaining that special relationship with the public and innovating have got to go hand in hand, the two things together, and innovation is what we love here.
Now Ian Desjardins has taken over, who was the curator, and he's kind of going to give it a big push and make it, a museum that people will come from all over the world to see. That's nice, we can handle that in South London. I'm not proud.